So when Timothy asked me to, I haven't spoken to an audience in quite a while, so I'm a bit. So it took me a while to figure out what I should talk about. So I said, let me stick to advertising and direction, and that's what I told Timothy I've been speaking about. And he said, "Is that your title?" And in my head it was, and I was like, "Oh shit, maybe I should come up with something then." So I said, "Keep it short. Don't ask me why I came up with this. It means nothing." I was like, let's keep it short. That's something I thought of right then and there. So let's get in. So let's keep it short. That's what I'll be talking about. I'll be talking about advertising from a production standpoint. How? Because I haven't really been in an ad agency. So I'll be talking about that, and I'll be talking about direction as well. And my approach to direction and what I think direction is about. So let's keep it short. That's it. Thank you. No, I'm kidding. We'll move on. What will I talk about? Yeah, how a TV commercial gets made, which is from inception to when it comes to us and what we basically do with it. Direction, what I do, which even I don't know right now, but hopefully I'll figure out at the end of this. And I'll introduce you to some Japanese words for no reason. What will I not talk about? I won't talk about how an ad agency functions. I've never been in an ad agency. I have a brief overview of how an ad agency functions, which I can tell you all about, but I really haven't been in an ad agency. I can't give you in-depth information about that because I don't know. Production-related costs. Again, I try to be creative. I really don't know much about costs and what goes into it, how much a camera costs, how much this costs. No clue. I can give you some rough ideas, but then it'll be wrong. So there's no point in doing that. I won't be talking about coronavirus, Riya Chakrabarti, and Trump, because again, I have no clue about what's happening there. So, all right, let's dive in. How does a TV commercial get made? So you have three verticals. You have your client. Sorry, my TV turned on. You have your client, you have your advertising agency, and you have a production house. Who are your clients? PhonePe, Grofers, Britannia, P&G, any company that wants to make some sort of, wants their product to be seen is your client. So PhonePe, P&G. P&G has a bunch of brands under them, Head and Shoulders, Ambipure, not Ambipur. Ambipur is next to Kolhapur, Ambipure. Advertising agencies. So let's say the client wants to make an ad. They in turn approach an advertising agency. Those being the Ogilvy's, Lolintas, Grey, Dentsu. That's your second Japanese word. Oh, the first one is me, which means eyes. But anyway, I digress. So you have a whole bunch of ad agencies like Ogilvy, Grey, Dentsu, Leo Burnett. So a client, when they want to make an ad, usually approach an ad agency to come up with an overall concept for it. And then there are production houses. There's only one production house now, it's called ZigZag Films. No, I'm kidding. There are others as well. A whole bunch of good ad film production houses. When I'm talking about production houses, I'm referring to ad film production houses. I'm not from the feature film world. So you have a great bunch of ad film production houses that are doing great work. Nirvana, for example, did the Vodafone ads. Coco is famous for the ads that they've done. So a whole bunch of good production houses that exist right now, doing some fantastic work. So let me give you an example. So let's say a client, PhonePe, wants to do an ad for the IPL series, right? They want a campaign done for the IPL. They in turn approach the agency that's handling their creative duties, which in this case was Leo Burnett. And they say, hey, we want to make an ad. We want to do this campaign for the IPL. So they in turn engage with Leo Burnett. So the creatives from there come up with a campaign which would include print, radio, TVC. I know that sounds old. There's also digital and social media, but these were the only three that fit in this circle. So I just the old one. Print, radio, TVC. So Leo Burnett comes up with the entire creative idea for all these, including scripts for the television commercial. TVC stands for television commercials. So the scripting happens at the ad agency, and a lot of times people get confused. They think that production houses, that's us. We come up with the script. No, 9 out of 10 times it is done by the ad agency, and that's after months of interacting with the client and trashing ideas back and forth. They come up with a script or a set of scripts. And then post finalizing the scripts, that's when they reach out to various production houses. And since I've taken the example of PhonePe IPL campaign, they reached out to, no prizes for guessing, ZigZag Films. So they reached out to us. They said, here are a bunch of scripts that we want to do for the IPL. And we won the bid. We had to pitch for it. We won the bid. And that's how we got to get started on this IPL campaign. So what happens now? Now we've gotten the scripts from the ad agency. What do? We start shooting, right? But not really. We don't start shooting right now. There's an entire process that's involved. There's production, which is the shooting aspect of it. And then you have pre-production and post-production. I'll get into these in a little bit, but pre-production, I would say, is the most important part of the productions of the cycle, because that's when you pretty much plan for everything. That's when you plan everything for your production, which is the shoot. So the better planned you are, the easier your shoot is. The more chaotic this is, the more chaotic your production is. Post-shooting, you got to put things together. You got to get your final film together, and that's the post-production process. I'll take you through these. It's just an overview. I'll take you through. A lot of this can be Googled and found out. So I won't delve too much into this. So what is pre-production? I've just put an extra circle here for symmetry. You'll know why. But so pre-production involves identifying your crew. So you've gotten a script. It's for the IPL campaign. Now you got to identify who your crew is going to be. It's like getting a wedding together, right? You need to figure out who's your cinematographer, who's the guy who's going to shoot this, who's going to be your art director, who's the guy who's going to construct the sets or prop up the space that you're going to create for this ad. Costume designers, makeup artists, storyboarding artists, your assistant directors, your director's assistants. All these play a very important role for for the production and for doing the right research, because at the end of the day, you're making an ad for a company. And so while you have gotten the script, you can't be all cowboyish about it and say, yeah, I'm just going to do what I want and here, take the final product. Because at the end of the day, there's a company that's putting some money in and they want a product that they can sell. So you got to make sure that whatever vision you have fits in their scheme of things. So the research that's put in has to be sort of shared, or the intent of what you plan to do with that script has to be signed off by both the ad agency and the client. So hence, it's important to identify the crew, find the right sort of referencing that this is how my set will look, this is how the costumes will look, this is the look of the film. I'll get into that in a bit, but identifying the crew, who would be the right people for this particular job, that's something that happens in the pre-production stage. You then put a docket together. A docket is basically like, it's almost like a lookbook. It's for you to share with the agency and the client, because at the end of the day, they've got a script. It's written words. How you visualize it can be completely different from how someone else visualizes it. So you need to bring everyone onto the same page. And hence you sort of put a lookbook together, which has, maybe references of other ads to show them that, we're sort of taking it in this zone so that they visually understand where you're coming from. Because you can say so much in words, but each one's imagination is going to be completely different. So the clearer you are when you put this docket together, and the more imagery and the more information you can provide, the better your chances are of that film getting accepted and being aired. Because a lot of times you put something together, you finish shooting, and then they'll be like, that's not what I remember signing off on. So it's always important to have everyone on the same page. And in advertising, this is very important, to put together a lookbook so that everyone knows what the hell you're going to be doing. And then you plan for the shoot. So once there's a sign off on that, your team gets together, how many days you're going to shoot, what you're going to shoot first, what time of the day you're going to shoot, blah, 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 all that put together. And that's usually done by the assistant director and the producer. And yeah, this extra circle for symmetry. Otherwise, there were only 3 circles. It looked kind of odd, so I put this there. Yeah. So I'll just take you through one of the dockets that we put together, and that's for the PhonePe ad that we did. It was for the first ad. So the first film, which was loved by 20 crore Indians, this was a script we received. The film opens in the police station with Alia trying to reason. So, galti iski nahi hai, jagda. So even my Hindi is a bit bad. So Timothy, you're not alone. So galti iski nahi hai, jagda to. But she's cut off by the inspector Aamir, who holds up his hand and says, "Crime is crime. Fine to bharna padega." She says, "Okay, phone pay karti hu." She takes out her phone, and as she says this, the inspector is dismissive of her suggestion and barks, "Phone pay kiske paas hai re Shinde?" slapping his sidekick constable on the shoulder as he says this. One by one, all the constables in the police station raise their hands. The convicts inside the jail cell, an uncle who has come to give tea to the staff, do the same. Having been proven wrong by his own staff, the inspector looks a little sheepish as the super appears. The super is text that appears. The super says, "Loved by 20 crore Indians." As the super is displayed on the screen, his sidekick Shinde also raises his hand, a little sheepishly. Inspector grumbles, "Shinde tu bhi." The film ends with the super being the text again, "Phone pay, karte ja, barte ja." So that's the script we received. What do we do now? So the first thing is that you need to put a sort of a storyboard together. Think of a storyboard as almost like a sort of comic or a graphic novel for this particular script. You're basically drawing frames which will give the client and which will give everyone in your crew an idea of how you're planning to, of how you're seeing it. What are the kind of shots you're taking? So roughly, and since this was a quick turnaround project, it was roughly put together like this, where you draw these frames so your team knows, so that your AD knows that, okay, this is the shot I'm taking, this is how wide I'm going, this is the information that will need to be seen. Your art director then knows how much to construct. Your cinematographer knows how many shots need to be taken, what are the angles that need to be taken. So it's very important for the planning and also for people to understand how you're seeing the flow of the film, right? So storyboard would somehow look like this. So the film opens on Alia sitting in a police station. She points to her brother who's locked up in a cell. So in the background, you see the cell, "Sir, galti iski nahi hai, jagda to." Also, it was important, there's certain reasons why we do, why it was constructed this way, because it had to be done in 20 seconds, and time is of the essence in advertising. You have to tell the story within that duration, and that duration is absolutely sacrosanct. You can't be like, it's not fitting, I'll do it in 22. 20 is 20, you have to fit it in that. So it makes you a little more precise in how you plan your shots, because you've got to pack in as much information as possible without compromising on the story. So so the next shot was to be and this is how the story how we sort of visualized it in terms of how the story flows, right? So you then cut to Inspector Aamir, who's busy working on some papers. He holds up his hand and says, "Crime is crime, fine to bharna padega," as he continues his work. So it's almost like he's, busy doing something, not giving a damn about what Alia is saying. She sighs, pulls out a phone and says, "Okay, phone pay karti hu." The inspector stops his work because it's so bizarre what she's saying, looks at the constable, Shinde, laughs at silliness of the suggestion. Phone pay kiske paas hai re Shinde, right? And then we start cutting to the other people in the police station. We cut to Alia's brother, who's inside the jail cell, raising his hand. A constable who's standing outside the cell raises his hand too. Cut to 2 convicts who are asleep on a bench. One of them suddenly wakes up and raises both hands after being arrested. Suddenly realizes the question and puts one hand down. Another constable sitting on that bench raises his hands too. We cut to a Chinese cat on one of the station tables, whose arm can be seen swinging up and down in a funny way. Cut back to the inspector, who looks really sheepish, having been proven wrong by his own staff and everyone else at the station. You see a mid-shot, Aamir's sidekick, Shinde, also raises his hand, looking a little guilty. Aamir to Shinde tu bhi. Film ends on the wide, where you realize everyone in the cop station has it. right? Loved by 20 crore Indians. So this is how we thought we could structure it, structure this particular story and have intercuts, and maybe some funny intercuts like the cat moving its hand up, or the guy, or the sleeping convict who's suddenly woken up, just raises both his hands because he's so used to being arrested and then realizes, oh, there's a question, and just raises one hand. So certain things you just add that you think might add a little quirk or a bit of humor into the script. So overall, these were the shots that needed to be taken, so everyone has a clear understanding. Okay, there are 10 shots in this film, of which maybe there are 3 specific shots that are required. So everyone gets an understanding of where this needs to be set up, how many actors required, what their costumes should be, what do I see in the background. So the storyboard is kind of essential for everyone to get onto the same page as you. Lighting, yeah. So this is important for them to understand how you want to light up the space. Now, police station could be lit up in so many ways. It could be only tube lights. It could be daylight coming in. So this was important. This is an important thing to tell them, because they wanted to be warm. They still wanted to be, because the inspector is sort of always seen in a menacing sort of way. They still wanted him to be accessible, still wanted it to be warm and friendly. So hence, it was a conscious choice to say that, okay, you know what, let's keep it nice and bright and daylight. It's warm. The space feels warm. So even though the inspector is curt and rude, the overall feeling of the film is not cold. It's still, it feels accessible. Color. Now we get into the art direction. How do we, what kind of space, what sort of colors do we use for the police station? Typically, a police station has very, it's got beiges, warms, your tables are brown, your walls are beige, and it gets into a very monotone kind of space, and they're wearing khaki as well. So we just thought we could take, move a little away from those warm colors and keep it more in a cooler palette with blues and grays. But still making the space kind of look believable, so that it just lends itself a bit of character. So this is what we used as a reference point for how we sort of construct the set. At the end of the day, we were working with 2 celebrities, so they're not going to go to an actual police station because they get mobbed. You have to construct a set. It has to be in a controlled environment. So this is the approach we decided to go with for the set in terms of an overall look, in terms of the colors, more grays, less browns in this kind of space, so that the inspector and the sidekick, all those who are wearing brown, will probably stand out better in a space like this and not sort of blend and merge. We then, because we were constructing a set, let me know if there's a moderator, if I'm going too fast or I'm going too slow, or if I'm not making sense, just let me know.
It's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Super. So then now we know that this is the look of the space. We now need to construct the set. And that's the next step. We come up with a floor plan. We say, okay, this is how a set will look. That's where we would want to place our main characters. What do we see around? So we see cabins in the top right. The jail cell can be in the bottom right. We come up with an overall floor plan with dimensions and say that, okay, this is where we place our central characters, where the circle is. Aamir, we can place in that circle marked in red. We can place him there. Alia Bhatt, we can place over there. And so this is the background that you see. The passage, the cabin window, the jail cell is what you see when you look at Alia. And when you look at Aamir, this is what you'll see. You'll see the bottom left cabin. You'll see a passageway behind. And you just sort of figure out your axes based on the set. And then the cast. You involve a casting director who's gotten a brief. In this case, we didn't need a casting director. We needed it for the other characters. But for our main characters, well, it was obvious who they were. But for the brother, we had to audition some people. We bring it down to 3-4 people who we share with the agency and the client, and they say, okay, we like this guy, he works well. For Aamir Khan's sidekick, again, we wanted to go with someone who would have some sort of character, would be funny but still believable. So we'd auditioned again 3-4 people. It was Ashish was finalized as Shinju. So all these actors are auditioned for this specific script. They then shortlisted by us. A brief is given to the casting director saying that this is what we want. He then shortlists people, auditions them. We in turn further shortlist them based on who we like, and that's then shared with the agency and client. And then it's discussed, and then we arrive at someone who we think works best. And in this case was Ashish. Costume references, right? This was to happen at the time of IPL. So we wanted to give a sense that they were at a game, that Alia and her brother were at a game. They've just come back from a match. Now we can't have them wear jerseys of a specific team, so it had to be sort of neutral. But just convey or give the sense that they've been involved in some sort of cricket, or they've come back from a match, or they've been actively watching something related to IPL. So that was something we had. Obviously, the inspectors were in their police uniforms, but more specifically for Alia, we thought we'd use, and a lot of brands want their colors, conveyed across in the film or somewhere, or put in some part to cue brand colors. So the jersey was something we thought would work well to cue the PhonePe color, which is purple. So we thought we'd have her in the purple jersey, and since she's also the one who's the active user of the PhonePe app in the ad, she sort of becomes the PhonePe person in the commercial. So hence, keeping her in the brand color sort of made sense. How we'd, so with the jersey, jeans, an easy bag which you can carry to a stadium, that was the intent of how we came up with this costume. And different styles of how we could do it with the logo. It's obviously a generic logo, but the overall style, rather than keeping it plain, we thought we'd just have some stripes coming in just to give it some sort of breaks. For the brother, no, sorry, this was for the print. This was for the print ad. I won't even come to this. For Alia's brother, yeah, similar to what she was wearing. Again, with jeans, chinos, keeping it very casual. And constable, yeah, what a constable would wear in Bombay. So do we shoot now? Yes. Boom. So the shoot happens. There are about I don't have any behind the scenes stills of the shoot, because they don't allow for it with celebrities. So typically you'd have about 80 people on a set, because you need so many people to rig up the lights. You have a gaffer, you have his team that worked in terms of setting up the lights. You have art people who construct the set. So easily about 80, 90 people, from production managers to light boys to grips to cinematographers to the costume team to the production team, catering crew. It's easily over about 80, 90 people on a set at a time. It's pretty much like a wedding. Everyone just sort of boom comes together, and that's when you execute it. And post which we then can get into post-production. This is where you put together what you've shot. So there's an offline edit. An offline edit is pretty much stringing together what you've done at a shoot. So in a shoot, you don't go according to this. You won't exactly go as per this. It's not that your first shot will be this, and then my next shot will be this. You will finish one axis because you finish lighting for that. You don't go according to the storyboard order. You go according to a shoot order, which is not necessarily in flow of what you've structured the film as. So you shoot it a particular way, and then it's sort of put together in an offline edit in the structure that you've thought of in your storyboard. And once that structure is put together, you get a sense of how the story is flowing. So it's a very important step. It's, they say the editor is another director, which is a fair point, because he's pretty much retelling the story based on what you've shot. So he could easily change shots around and change what the story means. So it's another place where, your story can, if you feel you haven't or if you feel that the humor isn't coming across as well, the edit can literally, you can change things around in the edit and really make it different. Or you can even change the story completely depending on what you want. So it's a very important stage, and that's when you pretty much put your film together. This color grading, think of this as sort of Photoshop for video. I can show you an example. So this is what we shot. This is how it looked in camera. And post working on the colors, this is how it looked. Can I get a before? After? So the before, as you can see, is just sort of one brown tone that seemed to be there right across. But it has all the information that's needed. So we took the walls, we took the other spaces into a cooler zone, so we get some sort of separation between these characters and the walls and the spaces over there. So it just doesn't look one monotonic color that you see. No? Then there's music and sound. That's really important. This track was composed. So once you're done with the offline, once you're done with the edit, it then goes to the music director and you brief him, and then you say, you know, he'll heighten certain moments, he'll punch in certain points that you feel are important so that, you know, those moments get highlighted. Sound, obviously, to make the space look believable. I mean, you're shooting in a studio where there's absolutely no sound besides the actors' voices. So you need to create that ambience. You need to create a sense that they're actually in a police station. So this is where that happens. You create a track for it. You create the right kind of ambience to make that space look believable as a police station. You then do online editing, which is also sort of Photoshop for film. This is where you can, clean up. Let's say there was a light in frame. You can take that out. You can sort of clean it up so that it's not there. I can show you an example. So in this shot, you see this fellow. You see the window behind. It's just white. I mean, so we thought we'd put a background over there and make it look a little more believable as a police station, to make it feel like it's within the city somewhere. So you sort of incorporate some sort of picture in the background, so then it lends itself some sort of authenticity as some place you would find in the city, and not a studio that was set up. I'm not saying that this makes it look like a studio. This just makes it look a little more believable. So this is where, online editing, a lot of, let's say this guy had a huge pimple on his forehead right over here. This is where you could just take it off if you want to. If you like the pimple, keep it. But this is pretty much where you can, play around with your image and make sure it looks clean and the way you want it to. So a lot of times you see people using green screen. Think of this as sort of a green screen where you want to change the background. You can do that in your online editing process. You can touch up people's faces. If he's got half a beard and you want him to be clean shaven, and he's just got half his face clean shaven, you can clean up the rest and make sure that he looks clean shaven fully. So this is pretty much your Photoshop for film. And once that's done, here's the commercial. Let me just play it for you.
सर गलती इसकी नहीं है। सर गलती इसकी नहीं है।
क्राइम इज क्राइम। फाइन तो भरना पड़ेगा।
ओके, फोन पे करती हूँ। फोन पे
किसके पास है रे जिंदगी? तू भी
I don't know how well that played. If it played well, great. Did it play well? Did everyone see it?
We anyway see it every day during the matches. So,
so cool. What does a director do? I think this is something which everyone gets really confused about, including my parents, including my brother who's on this call for a long time. They don't know what I did, including me. Even I didn't know what I do. So what does a director do? And what does a director generally bring to the table? a lot of times people confuse story with storytelling. You may have a good story to tell, but it's the way that story is told is what determines who a director is. If you understand what I mean, you can have a great story, and even as far as the written form goes, I mean, who's a writer? You can have a good story, but it's how you tell that story in a written form that determines what writer you are. If I'm a little clear on that, I'm not sure. But having said that, anyone who has a pen and knows a language can be a writer, because yeah, that's what it means. It just means writing things down. And if you have a story in your head, you can write it. But how you tell that story, that's pretty much what a director or what a writer does. At least that's my definition of it. So anyone with a phone and a camera can go and shoot stuff and becomes a director. But what makes a director is how you tell that story you want to say, and how you have an intention of what you want to take the audience through, and how effectively do you do that, and how do you ensure that the emotion that you want to convey comes across. As far as technicalities go, there are a few basic things which if you read up, it's literally a page. If you know what shots to take, anyone can go and shoot a scene. It's not hard at all. But then why are you shooting that scene? What do you want that scene to tell you? What is the importance of that scene? I mean, those are the things that a director would think of, and not just shoot it as is. I hope that was a little clear. I'm not so sure of that, but each person's definition is different, of course. But that's my definition, and yeah. But I thought a good way of probably probably making you understand or helping you understand what exactly we do was to take a case study of a particular ad, which I thought was quite challenging for me. I'm not saying that the end product is good, but it was a challenging script for me. There was a certain thought that had to be communicated, and the thought was communicated at the end. When the ad aired, we know that the communication worked, and the intention of what that ad was for was achieved. So, and it was a very challenging script for multiple reasons, and I thought it would be an interesting case study. So I thought, let's use a particular ad for it. I feel the other stuff, like what are the shots one can take, what are the angles, that's something you can just Google. It's really easy. It's literally, there are hundreds of books written about it. I thought, taking something that's very personal and a specific example would kind of be interesting, I hope. If it isn't, you can doze off. So yeah, most people don't know what it's about. Confuse story with storytelling. We saw what the workflow was. We saw the process, right? Pre-production, production, post-production, what all those entail. Now, I'll be getting a little into why those certain decisions were taken. Why, like for example, why we chose warm lighting in the police station was because we wanted to make it friendly. We wanted to make that space friendly. So hence we chose warm lighting. A lot of these decisions are taken, and a lot of these decisions sort of are sort of subliminal cues. It's not like people watch it and say, oh, it's warm lighting, and hence, yes, this is a friendly film. It's not that. They're just cues thrown in just to make it's more emotional. You feel a certain way, and it's kind of like print when it's kind of good print. Actually, that's not even an example. No, cancel that example. That doesn't work. But there are certain decisions taken to lead the audience or to lead them to a certain emotional state, which some are subliminal, some are more overt. So why were certain decisions taken? Let's take an example. So this script was what I received from the agency, from the ad agency, and this is what I read. It said, a man is in a weekend home in a green foresty area. He's eating popcorn and watching TV, and he dozes off. Then we see a window open just a little, and an orangutan's fingers slip in and widen the gap. Then we see the orangutan's face peering into the room. Then it comes in. It's quickly followed by more orangutans. Cut to the orangutans eating the popcorn, raiding the fridge, eating fruits off the table. Then we cut to the man who's still dozing. The man is now feeling uncomfortable. He half opens his eyes and picks up a newspaper and starts fanning himself. And then he hears a blowing noise and sleepily looks around and sees an orangutan blowing, huff, 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 and fanning himself with another newspaper. The man is surprised and now he's wide awake. And he sees about 6 more orangutans in the house. One is chilling in a chair and sipping a cool drink. Another has a scooped up melon on his head. Another is throwing water over his head. One more is standing on a stool in front of the AC and trying to cool himself. So I'm reading all this. What do you think the product is that is being sold here? We can open it up right now if someone wants to just chime in, just take a guess as to what they think this ad is about. Anyone wants to chip in? Or do I continue? Oh,
It's about someone.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize that. Okay.
People are using the chat box.
Oh, wow. Everyone seems to know it's about an AC. I didn't get it. For some reason, I just did not get that this ad is about an AC. So I was like, okay, let's go. And sure enough, it was about an AC. You guys are way smarter than me, but I was like, what is this ad about? And when I said an ordinary AC always cools below expectations, I'm like, huh? Why did I not get this? So then now the AC on the wall changes to another brand. The VO continues, get this brand AC. It has better cooling to keep you comfortable all the time. Camera pans down. We see the man, the orangutans, munching on snacks and watching a show on orangutans on TV, totally engrossed in it. Close the shot of the AC. Now, for some reason, I didn't get the fact that this was about an AC. And I'll tell you why. And this is the thought process that went on when I read the script. If I were to shoot as per story, now there are a lot of cues that you can give across verbally, right? Like for example, the orangutan is standing on a stool in front of the AC trying to cool himself. Now that is just 3 words written there. Visually, I need to communicate that. And we're talking about orangutans. We're not talking about human beings. How do you communicate this? So now if I were to shoot as per story, what am I seeing? A man on vacation dozes off while lazing around. That's the first shot. That's what I see. A bunch of orangutans spot some goodies in the house and decide to raid the place, right? Visually, this is what I see. As they wreck the place, the man's sleep gets disturbed. He pulls out a newspaper to fan himself, half awake. He wakes up and is shocked to see these orangutans in his house doing crazy things. That's what I'm seeing, because when I go back to the script, when he wakes up, orangutan sipping a cool drink on a chair, another has a melon on its head, another is throwing water over his head, another is standing in front of an AC. Now, they're orangutans, and if I see these visuals, they're just monkeying around. That's what I'm getting from it. I'm not getting the fact that they, or at least I never got the fact, I never understood that this was a film about them feeling hot. Because when I see monkeys or apes doing apey things, I just assume that they're being apes. And that's how I first interpreted it as a viewer when I said, okay, if I shoot it as is, what am I getting from it? Apes have snuck into the house while the man was asleep and have started raiding his food. As a viewer, I'm waiting to see what will happen next. You know, he's fast asleep. People have snuck into his house, right? Is he going to get disturbed? Will they sneak out before he wakes up? That's the thought that's running. That was the thought that was running in my head. He stirs slightly. Oh, he's going to wake up, right? Reaches out for the paper to fan himself. Will they get caught? Or will he go back to sleep? What's going to happen? Can go either way. Boom, he woke up. The apes are caught red-handed. But why were we talking about an AC? Because my visual is apes enter the house. They're making a racket. This guy is sleeping. I haven't cued heat. I haven't cued warmth in any way. Right now, the only point I start cueing it was when he reaches out for a paper to fan himself. But then again, my visual is of monkeys monkeying around. They were there picking up whatever, raiding a fridge, eating fruits. So I'm associating his stirring with noise and not so much with heat. So it could have been him doing something else, which could have been more of an audio cue. I have not till now linked it to heat. So if he's feeling warm and he's reaching out for the paper, I would first interpret it as, oh, there's some noise happening and it's making him stir, and this is a natural thing. So rather than him just opening his eyes over there, he's doing something natural, right, reaching for the newspaper, and happens to be finding himself. I still haven't understood that he's feeling warm. I'm still interpreting it as, okay, disturbance, noise disturbance, maybe something's really close to him and that's what's distracted him. And then he's reached out for the newspaper, he started finding himself, and then he looks up, and what does he see? He sees one orangutan with a melon on its head. That still does not cue heat to me. It just cues that this guy was having fun in his house. They were wrecking the place. They apes. They're going to behave like apes. So he's got a melon on his head. Another one's sitting there on the chair sipping a cold drink. It doesn't cue heat to me again. The only two visuals that did was, again, a monkey throwing water on his head. But then again, could be monkeying around. One standing in front of the AC. Sure, he's enjoying the AC. How do I cue that he's feeling hot? And because he's feeling hot, he's now standing in front of the AC. That's something. They're not humans at the end of the day. It's not like they'd be going, it's not it. It's just going to be standing in front of the AC with that. So what I get from it is, man sleeping, disturbed because of noise happening, wakes up, sees apes being apes. So I would then think it's for maybe a security lock or lock your doors or something. I don't know. I never thought it would be about an AC. So, but that's what needs to be communicated. Ordinary AC cools below expectations, and hence one needs to switch over to. Oh yeah, sorry. The product was Blue Star. Yeah, Blue Star. It has better cooling to keep you comfortable all the time. It finally ended up, the intended communication was, when there are more people in the room, ordinary ACs fail, switch to Blue Star, as it has 30% more cooling when needed. So this brings in another thing, that when he was by himself, he was fine. When there were more people, it started getting warm. But that was another layer. So now the challenge is obviously, how do I bring in this angle of warmth and heat for the viewer to pick up? Because it wasn't there in the beginning. It was, the viewer expects the story to be going a certain way. It's more about, will he wake up? Will they make a racket? But now I have to bring in this angle of, no, we're actually talking about heat. It's not about them monkeying around. It's not about all this. It's about, there are more people here. This place has gotten warmer, which made him get up. And not because they were making a racket. And then when he did wake up, I need a cue that these apes are feeling hot as well, and not just being apes. I had to communicate all this in 30 seconds. Yeah, that was the other thing. But make the setting convincing. The other thing was making the set, make the space and the setting convincing, so that the viewer is invested in the story. Now, it's not every day that chimpanzees walk into the house. I say chimpanzees because we ended up shooting with chimpanzees. But it's not every day that a chimp walks into your house. And one shouldn't get too sort of distracted with, whoa, where is this guy and what is the setting? So that space needs to be absolutely believable. So I'm just invested in the story, and it makes, I'm not questioning what they're doing here, where do they come from? And I say communicate all this in 30 seconds, because if I had the luxury of time, I could then start, from outside the forest, you see this house, that the setting is in a forest, and then I go in, whether I see windows or not, doesn't matter. Then I've clearly established that this dude is somewhere in the forest. But because I don't have that luxury of time, I need to communicate, I need to get into the story as quickly as possible, because I need to show one hell of a lot of things as per the script, that he was watching TV, he dozes off. Once he dozes off, chimps come in, start wrecking the place. Then how do I bring in this angle of heat? Then he wakes up. Then he realizes, oh, yeah, it's warm. He woke up because it was hot. Then I show the product, and then I come back to them enjoying this whole space of it being cool once this Blue Star is set in, right? And all that in 30 seconds. So that was a huge challenge. But the biggest one, obviously, was how do I bring in this angle of warmth and heat? I'm going to play this ad for you, and I know So take what you want from it. You may like it, you may not like it, you may think it's meh, which meh in Japanese means ice, but some random trivia which no different.
Abhijit, when you play the ad, just mute your mic. Otherwise, there's an echo which picks up. Yeah.
Sure. So I'll play the ad, see if you, but keep in mind that these were things that I had to tick mark to ensure that the communication was clear. You may like it, you may not like it. That's subjective, but it was effective in communicating the idea.
A wave of summer heat, a rising tropical heat. Fan as much as you can. You're in the midst of summer heat.
When there are more people in the room, ordinary ACs fail. Get the Blue Star Inverter AC. Get 30% more cooling when needed. Blue Star, nobody cools better.
A wave of summer heat, a rising tropical heat. Fan as much as you can. You're in the midst of summer heat.
When there are more people in the room, ordinary ACs fail. Get the Blue Star Inverter AC. Get 30% more cooling when needed. Blue Star, nobody cools better.
Let me just go back to individual things and I'll tell you why we did certain things. Okay, setting. It was important immediately to establish that this guy was in some sort of equatorial area. So we had to choose a place. I wanted to choose a place which had large windows. So I get to see his surroundings immediately so that I don't need to take a shot from the outside to say, look, this is where he is. And a lot of things I wanted to convey in this immediately, that he's comfortable, he's fast asleep, he's chilling on his couch. Headphones important because to further, these are things that we thought were important because he's listening to something, noise has been cut off. So that angle of them making a racket is sort of taken care of, right? He's got his headphones on. All right. Important shot where you see the chimps coming and you see what they're coming for. You see a fruit bowl that's there on the table. They've come only for that. That was... And then you cut to them inside. This was another important shot as well, more from a functionality point of view of the chimp closing the window. Sure, they came in, but did it not cool because the window was open? Or, those are questions that while it may not occur to maybe 90% of us, there's always going to be that one person be like, hey, that window was open and hence it didn't cool. So you just got to food, it did proof a lot of things. So this shot was the chimp closing the window to say that no window was open, it was all sealed. So, conditions were as they were before they entered. Yeah, and here obviously we had to communicate that the chimps are here there for the food. Yeah. So this section was more to say that, okay, the chimps are here and they're being chimps. They're monkeying around. And this is where I first start introducing the concept that he's uncomfortable. We know that he's doing something. We know that he's stirring. I'm still not clear whether he's stirring because he's feeling hot, whatever. This is just an example. He's just started doing that. Now, it's not enough for me to communicate heat in just one visual. So I introduced the idea here. And now the script had them throwing water, throwing this, throwing that, doing this, to show that they're cooling themselves. But I think what worked, or what we decided to focus on as far as the script goes, was one of the orangutans or the chimps fanning himself or herself. That is a very human reaction when you're feeling hot. It's very human. It's a relatable reaction. No human's going to dump a watermelon on their head or, do any of those other things mentioned, or they're not going to be splashing water like that when they're feeling hot. When they feel hot, the first natural thing is to fan themselves. And we said if you give these chimpanzees an action that is very relatable to humans as fanning, you know that they're feeling warm too. So that's
Rising tropical heat. Fan
and my network gave up on me. So an entire section to them fanning themselves to know that, okay, we're talking about warmth now, because it only comes in at the end. Once he wakes up, that's the only moment when you see them doing something related to heat, and it comes only at the end. And that's not enough for me to then say, okay, this is about an AC. I had to bring it in through the story and somewhere in the middle, somewhere, just introduce the idea and stay with it and keep driving home the concept or the fact that these chimps are actually fanning themselves and feeling hot. We need many shots of this. And then he wakes up, and then you realize, okay, the story is about heat, and then this chimp offers him a magazine to fan himself. But the idea was communicated by the time we cut to the product and said, okay, you know what, you're feeling hot, change the AC. I felt it sort of tied that up much better when this idea was communicated through and through. And it worked for them. And it was a really fun experience, and it was a really challenging one, because not only do you have to solve this in the script, you have to work with chimps. And I might look like one and behave like one, but it's completely different when you're actually working with them. But that's about it. Thank you so much. Arigato. And hope you guys enjoyed it.